What's good, YouTube? My name is Marvin, and today I'm going to be talking about the 50mm 1.8 low light beast. If you're new to photography, this should be one of the first lenses that you buy, hands down. I've owned the lens for almost 2 years now, and I'm going to be discussing exactly why I love it and why it's not necessarily always going to stay in my bag. It's definitely a review, but not as technically put together. I'm going to be speaking more on it in my opinion and with my experiences. So let's go.
Let me take the friction from your lips. And I'ma love you, girl. Do it me.
Okay, so I'm gonna split the video into two, pros and cons. Let's start with pros. Pros are, it is small. The lens is tiny. Having a lens that is small and inconspicuous can help you grow, help you not feel as conscious when maybe doing street photography or being around people. You can fit in without being noticed as much. Another thing to add to the size is that the lens does not change in size. So you'll find that the FE version, the full frame version, when it is finding its focus, it will kind of raise and try and find, so it doesn't move is what I'm trying to say. I had a lens, the kit lens, the 16 to 50 or whatever it was, and I broke it because of the same thing. The lens pops out and I dropped it off of a really small edge, and yeah, it broke the lens. So that is important to me. Another little add-on to size is the millimeter thread that goes around the lens. Now, I didn't really understand what that meant when I first started and why that would be important. The reason why this is good is that it's only a 49-inch thread. Basically, the smaller the better. The reason why I say that is if you ever want to put a filter on top, like an ND, a UV, or a polarizer, then a lot of the time the cost is I'd probably say that it's close to half price. You can spend a lot of money when it comes to UVs or the right UVs with big filter threads. I personally did not end up buying any NDs for this lens, but I definitely had a UV on there, and it was very, very cheap for me to source, even from good reputable UV providers. Moving on to performance. I have nothing, well, no, I do have something to complain about, and I'll tell you after, but on the whole, I hardly have anything to complain about. You can get beautiful, beautiful, beautiful images out of this lens. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean that there is any kind of major letdown. You can get a lot out of this lens, both on the video side and on the photography side. It's got optical image stabilization, or OSS, known on Sony. I've handheld this, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but for weddings and stuff like that, when I've had to, I've handheld it and it's been fine. When you start off in photography, there's a lot of lens choices out there within good pricing. However, there's not many that have a low f-stop number like a 1.8. Sigma have a great lineup, which I'm actually shooting on right now. I'm shooting on the Sigma 16. However, the pricing for that is tripled. So it all depends on where you are in your journey and what you want to add to your arsenal. Really? Sorry if you guys can hear the dishwasher. So yeah, 1.8, it's, like I said, when you get into it, I was definitely one of those guys who were just like in love with the bokeh. I still am. I still love the shallow depth of field. I still love the fall off. You don't get the creamiest bokeh as what you get in like a GM lens or anything like that, but that's to be expected. You're paying a fraction of a price of a GM. For example, the 24mm that I'm soon to be getting is 12 times, almost 12 times the amount of the 50mm. So starting off, what most people, especially if you're uploading to Instagram, what most people will see, they won't notice a difference. They won't notice. It all depends on what type of work you're doing and how far you want to take that work. Even though we call it a 50mm, please bear in mind that because it's a cropped lens, it's an E lens, it's not an EF lens, it's designed for a crop sensor body. So even if you did put it on your EF lens, you are going to get a 1.5 times crop as what Sony gives you, and this will be equivalent to a 75mm lens on a full frame body. The pros and cons of that, of course, you've got a nice tight lens, so if you can frame it right, then once again, that's going to add to the bokeh, that's going to add to the fall off, you know, maybe not the bokeh in particular, but the depth of field. You're gonna get some really nice shallow depth of field looking shots that are gonna look dreamy when it comes to I don't know. I've shot everywhere. I'm actually going to put some photos on screen right now. I've done portrait shoots with this. I've done street photography with this. I've done headshots, which is the same studio. I've done food photography in restaurants with this. This thing has taken me far. I think I'm going to break it to you guys now. I'm actually selling this. I know this kind of contradicts me talking about it and speaking about it, but literally, I've got no bad words for it. The only reason why I am personally changing is because I need money. That 24GM that I was telling you about, it needs to be paid for somehow. And my plan is to move on to full frame. So it's already been sold. This is why I'm doing this review, because I have it in my hands and I'm probably not gonna have it again. I thought, let me just, pass the knowledge on to anyone else who's in the market. So if that is you, if you have got a crop body, even if you've got a full frame body, I would definitely say that the lens is worth it. Anyway, back to it. Covered size, covered performance, covered focal length, covered depth of field. Yep, now let's move on to the price of this thing. I got mine almost a couple of years ago now, and I'm happy to say that I'm breaking even. This lens has really held its value, definitely from the money standpoint, especially considering that for the last 6 or so months, it's been sitting on my shelf and just gathering dust. Once again, this isn't to put you off it. This is only because I've now got a full frame that I shoot the majority of my photography work with. Anytime I use my crop body, it's generally speaking for video work, which I will only use my Sigma 16mm. Buy it. Pricing wise, I think that it's okay to kind of find yourself in between 100 and 130 pounds on the used market. If you look at a peace of mind with new, then I will leave my affiliate link down below. This lens will grow with you, it will stay with you, especially if you're doing more portraiture styled shoots. I didn't even talk about sharpness. Sharpness is great, by the way. I know some people might compare it to other lenses, but like I said, if this is your first lens, it's definitely sharper than the kit lens. Don't quote me on it, but I believe because of the shallow depth of field, which helps, contrast is where you get most of your sharpness. I think that you can compare it to the 18 to 105. I point because it's like right here. You can compare it to like the 18 to 105, which is relatively sharp. I would say that the Sigma ranges are probably a little bit sharper, but I'll explain to you why that is in a moment. I think I've praised it enough now. Let's talk about the negatives. Let's talk about why I believe the sharpness lacks. Sharpness is, I use that word quite vaguely. I consider a whole bunch of things to add into sharpness. As I just said, contrast is important. So if you've got blue or aquas and you've got or teal and orange and you've got them sitting together, if they cut off, that it's like a fringe, right? That creates an element of sharpness to what the eye sees. I know that real sharpness is in tones and in textures and so forth, but that all adds into the picture. If you get two contrasting elements together, generally speaking, the eye perceives it as being sharp. So where I'm going with this, because let me digress. The chromatic aberration that you get with this lens, if you don't know what chromatic aberration is, then research it, or take these words in and maybe you might see it in your own work at some point in the future. Let's say you take a photo, trees are pretty good with sunlight behind it, all right? It usually comes in the colors of green or purple, but there's usually like a, kind of like a halo of green or purple that comes on the side or the outline of any detail in your photos. And that can become annoying. I'm not gonna lie to you, it can be frustrating. It can make your photos look amateurish. Now, this doesn't happen all the time, especially when you can set up your scene and you've got studio and studio lights. It doesn't happen as much. This is more so when you are out and there are an array of colors because you're using the sunlight to light your scene. So there's sunlight bouncing off of everywhere. What happens is how your lens sees things. Different kind of lights go through the lens at different angles, and it bounces, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but it bounces around the lens. And the lens, why you get expensive lenses is that they are designed to maintain how that light moves around. These cheaper lenses don't do the better job of that. So by the time it bounces back where it needs to be, instead of them being aligned, the lights aren't aligned. So that's why you get that fringing on top of the outline of someone or whatever that may be. That's why you get that green and purple tint. It can be easily changed within Lightroom and software like that. However, anything that adds on to your editing process can be a bit of a hindrance. I would always say that you can always get fantastic results with whatever you use. The best filmmakers, the best photographers will always be great if they're using kit lenses. I'm always stunned at what some people get just because of their experience and knowledge rather than the kit, or whilst using crappy kit. If you use bad kit, it just means that you have to edit or fix it for longer. It's not necessarily that it doesn't work, it just means that your process is going to take longer. You pay for speed, in my opinion. Anyway, moving on. What else don't I like about this lens? Now I'm struggling, I can't lie. Apart from the chromatic aberration, I don't think I have a problem with this lens. For me, it focuses fast. I know a lot of people have some comparisons within how fast the lens focuses, and so I've never ever thought or had a problem with how fast this lens hits. It was better than my 18-105, which is a Sony G lens. I wouldn't say it's better than the Sigma, but yeah, I just wish that it was an FE lens, or you could get an FE lens that didn't, I keep forgetting the word, but didn't come out, it didn't extend. It's for the money, and you know what, I'm gonna say it, for the money, it's the best lens, best APS-C lens I've bought, hands down. Hands down, everyone's gotta have one. You gotta have one. I'm really stunned by this. Actually, I'm gonna Google bad things about the 50mm lens. I mean, they ain't got nothing bad to say. They just say for the price, you can't beat it. And that's exactly it. I'm out here looking for faults. I'm gonna end it all here. I'm gonna sign out. And this is gonna be the love you and leave you to my 50mm. This is going to a new owner, which is quite sad actually. It's quite sad, but hopefully I'll have some new happy moments with the 24GM. If not, then no, I won't buy it again, but I don't know. I just hope it goes to a happy home, and I hope that it brings as much joy as it did to me to the next person. And hopefully through me saying this, you guys get it too. And yeah, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe for more future content like this, and drop comments in, ask me questions about the lens. I've had it for ages, so I'll be happy to help with anything. I'll speak to you on my next upload. Peace. It's going back in the box. All gone now. Oh yeah, just for nitpicking, the focusing distance isn't that great. You do have to come out a little bit. No, I'm just finding shit. Like guys, I'm literally finding shit. It's a great lens. Just go and buy it.